Welcome to nCast, the podcast from FinOps. Each week, we'll explore the world of cloud cost management, the latest in AWS optimization, and getting practical about your FinOps journey. Join us as we dive deep into the latest trends, tools, and best practices while having conversations with leaders and luminaries who are innovating on the front lines. Our goal is to provide value to the community through insights and practical advice that will help you to achieve your FinOps goals. So whether you're in engineering, leadership, finance, or a cloud professional, this is the place for you. Sit back, relax, and get ready to join the conversation on nCast.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for another episode of nCast. We've been away since reInvent after 8 successful episodes launched in the second half of 2023, and we're happy to see that we're back and with a vengeance for 2024. We've had the opportunity to test how this thing was going to go. Things have gone greatly. We want to thank everyone for your support, and so we've built a little team around this, and we've got a lot of episodes planned for the year ahead. I'm especially excited today about our episode and the opportunity for us to open the curtain a little bit and get you, the listeners, engaged with some of the experts here at FinOps. And so our guest today is Marcos Heidemann. He's a principal data scientist over here at FinOps, and he's driving all things around AI and machine learning. So Marcos, maybe you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hey guys, thank you for having me here today. It's a pleasure. Well, my name is Marcos. I've been in this field for almost 10 years now. I've been in everything related to data, from the very basic to the now that is all the hype we're going to be talking today, the GenAI, the AI, the LLM kind of things. I like to pride myself that I like to tinker with all that is new. I like to tinker with everything that is somewhat of a mystery and everything that is kind of a hype. I like to break it open a little bit. So that's a little bit for myself. Any questions, I guess we have my LinkedIn URL somewhere we can talk later as well.
Sure. We'll definitely post how to get a hold of you and how people can find you on the various socials and professional networks in the show notes. One of the really exciting projects that we've had the opportunity to partner on over the last several months focuses on what is the topic of the show today, and that's around the applications of generative AI in FinOps analysis. Now, I've been very encouraged by the results that we've been able to see. Everybody's got one of these AI-driven chatbots out there. And after our experiences in 2023 with services like OpenAI, ChatGPT, Bing's got stuff out there. There's been a surge of these chat agents that are on the market, and to my experience, the outcome and the impact of those things in a lot of cases has been underwhelming. Our expectations have been set to the moon based on the experiences that we've had with the exposure to generative AI. Can you tell us a little bit about what's up with all of this hype, and are there practical use cases here?
For sure I can. I mean, that's like the greatest question we can begin. Like, there is a lot of hype going on right now. Everything is AI, everything is generative AI, everything is GPT, everything is ChatGPT. You hear that everywhere. So if you go on Google, if you type AI right now, everything you're going to find is related to ChatGPT, is related to some sort of LLM, which is a large language model, which is a very specific type of AI that we call right now. So what's the hype that is being that became out of this? It's just because when ChatGPT came to the market with GPT-3 in the beginning of 2023, people were amazed that it could mimic human conversation. And you asked a question, it was able to answer you a question. You asked it to somewhat think, it was able to feel like it was thinking. You asked it to write code, it was able to give you code. So it created a hype that you are actually talking to something intelligent. It felt like it was intelligence. So the term AI has been applied very loosely to this, in the sense that it is by definition of the word how it's been created an AI, but it is not in the sense of the general public an artificial intelligence, because it's not thinking by itself. So there is this big hype that it's going to solve all of our problems. People say, oh, everybody's going to lose their jobs. They're going to replace programmers. They're going to replace data scientists. They're going to replace a lot of people because it's going to do all of our jobs. And it's maybe going to happen to some extent, but not nearly as much as people are thinking. Because as I said, this is not an intelligence. This is just a glorified autocomplete. And we're going to get a little bit more into why I said that. But it is, in the end, just that. It's not an intelligence. It is not thinking everywhere. And by saying that is very important, because I'm not saying it's bad. It is amazing. It's wonderful, and it is revolutionary. And there are so many cases we can apply that. Because the great thing that came out of this, more than anything, is the fact that it is the revolution of the search engine. The company that is most afraid of this right now has been Google, because this is something that took a lot of the market share, in a sense, not actually market share, because Google is dominant and will forever, for a long time, be dominant in this, but it is knowledge. It is a big repository of knowledge. It is a very human-like way to understand, talk, and be able to process that knowledge. So that's why it's some sort of a very, very ultra-advanced autocomplete. And by knowing that, we can actually know how to actually use and apply that in the good use cases, the way that it's actually going to drive value. And that's how we get out of the hype that we think is going to solve all of our problems. We think it's just a magic button. It's a magic plug. We're going to put in everything that's going to just know how to do it, everything we want, which is not the case. It's a very specific tool, which requires a very specific skill set and a very specific scenario to work in the most effective way. By knowing that, we can extract a lot. By not knowing that, it's just the hype that everybody's talking about.
Sure. Well, from practical experience, I mean, revolutionary is definitely the way to explain the experience that we have all had with this tooling. I know that for me, what ChatGPT has done is really revolutionized the way that I spend my time doing menial tasks. I certainly, as I'm analyzing data throughout the day, as I need to write a bit of code that normally would be assigned to a developer to achieve a discrete task, find myself being more productive because I try to leverage GPT. I try to leverage the tooling to help myself to take advantage of what these things are capable of. Now, you and I have had the opportunity to dig in. We've looked a lot at Bedrock. We've experimented with different models. And I think that the thing that's become really evident to me is that that the impact of LLM itself would probably not have been so explosive had it not been for the agents and frameworks that have been built around large language models that give it the ability to do things that an LLM itself is not really capable of doing. So maybe for the audience, can you help us to understand what's the difference between an agent and the models that are being used out there today?
Yeah, that's actually an amazing question, because it goes back to the practical use cases, and is a chance for us to talk about what is in everybody's mind when you talk about this is ChatGPT. So what is ChatGPT, and why everybody thinks of ChatGPT as something that is the AI, and what ChatGPT actually is, and why agents are important, and how we can go back in time and understand how that evolved. If anybody that is listening has actually been using that product, let's use ChatGPT as an example. Let's call it a product. It's not a model. It has been using it since it was first launched in the beginning of 2023, something like that. It was just questions and answers. You entered pure text and gave it back pure text. And it was super revolutionary for us at the time already, because as you said, it allowed you to be much more productive. It allowed me to be much more productive, me as a person, as a professional. But then people start to think, if it can write me code that I asked, how can I leverage that so that I can automatically interpret the result without having a human in the middle? So then the agent concept was born. The agent concept is a software layer that is not the AI, that just interprets the result by whatever it is that I asked, and feeds the result back to the AI so that it can achieve a task. So essentially I ask the AI to do something, it gives me the result. I feed the result back to the AI, and I get the result. Like if it's a code, it can be Python, it can be whatever language, it can be an API, and I get that result and I run that all via code, via software. And I grab the result and I give back to the agent, to the AI as text. So I allow the API to talk to a system instead of a human, and let it run until it understands that it got enough data to answer me my first question. So those are agents in a very fast and simple way, which is ChatGPT today, in a sense. When you ask something a little bit more complex, and it goes searching Bing, and you see it goes to the web and search, and you do me solve this math question for me. How much interest would I pay if I did something like this and that? And you see a little window of code appearing, and you see lines of code, this and here. That is an agent running in the background, because it's doing code, is running that code, and it's feeding back to it. So those are agents. Those things are the next step in this revolution, because they transform what I said before about they being just a glorified autocomplete to actually being something that is completely new, and that can be very disruptive in a lot of different ways. I think that's a beginning of the conversation for this as well.
The beginning of the agent discussion. Yeah, I mean, as we were out doing investigation, LangChain started to come up as an open source project that just absolutely exploded. And the different modules, SQL module and math module, and all of these different models. So can you explain to us, what are the limitations of AI, and what are some of the things that the agent actually introduces into the equation?
Okay. A very good example of this that I think helps solidify a lot is, LLMs, this sort of models that we've been talking, that is what we are talking here. For instance, they don't know math. They are purely linguistic. They know how to talk. They know how to mimic our speech. They know how to mimic the way our words relate to each other. That's what they know. And the way they do this is a very, very complex math. So that's why it looks so intelligent to us. But the consequence of that is, anywhere it shows that there is no intelligence there, is, for instance, it cannot do math. You can easily test this by yourself by trying to go into a chat of those, except, for instance, ChatGPT, because they use agents to bypass that, and trying to ask math questions. Simple ones, it's going to answer, because you don't need to know math to answer simple math questions. You can do that just by knowing the answer by hearing, but you don't know how to solve it. So how do you go about with this? I mean, what does the purpose of LangChain and all that come into play here? They wrap for you all the process you need to do, because there is a lot of this in this. LangChain, for instance, we are talking here about agents. Agents is a small part of everything you need to do. Agents is just a little part of a lot of things you can do. So, for instance, LangChain is like a big framework of development for large language models. So you can do a lot more. One of the things it allows us is to do agents in a faster way, because it already has a lot of development done that wraps and that abstracts for us a lot of things that I would need. Like, how do I interpret the return of my LLM? How do I give instructions that make sure that it's going to abide by certain rules? It already has in it all the structure it needs. How do I interpret the whole output so that it can return me and I can parse all that? It already has that. So it makes it easier for us to develop faster and get results faster. There are alternatives. They are not the only ones on the market, but right now they are open source. They are very close to OpenAI. So they're mainly focused today in providing, the most of their products, they have usually one function that is custom and one function that is for OpenAI. So I think that one of the main selling points that they have right now. I think, did I manage to answer your question?
Sure. And I think that there's just so much more to talk about. But maybe what we ought to do is pivot a little bit here and talk about how all of this discussion relates to analysis of FinOps data, right? So anyone out there listening knows that one of the complexities of working with FinOps data is that there's a tremendous amount of it. We're analyzing trillions of rows of cost and usage data, CloudWatch metrics, utilization data, resource metadata, all of the things that go into understanding how are resources being consumed, how efficient are things, how do we make recommendations, how do we analyze utilization for savings plans. And so when we use ChatGPT, we be very excited. Oh my goodness, this thing can write me some code that can transform a piece of data. Or perhaps that this thing can answer an extremely complex question. Like, what would the impact be if I reduced the amount of network traffic on a web API microservice, and what would the network impact be on all of the downstream services, or even what would be the most optimal AWS instance family for a specific workload that would give me the best price of performance, and how would that impact but the the cost of goods sold for a specific application or service that I'm delivering. I mean, we get very excited about the questions we could ask, the things we could ask it to do if we were perhaps to be able to analyze large amounts of data that are very unique to us. Obviously, we're never going to put our cost and usage data or highly sensitive data into ChatGPT, and so the question remains: how do we get from the place where we've had that experience with ChatGPT to the very contextual experience that would open up revolutionary new use cases and change the way that engineers and FinOps professionals analyze this type of data?
Now we're getting the meat of it. So yeah, now that's the fun part. That's where everybody thinks it's magic, and that's where I'm about to say something that a lot of people might think it's controversial, and I am gonna stand by what I say, and that is, for what you just said, for the work we're doing, for the type of product we're developing, and whoever else is listening that is trying to develop something that does the same with the same intent, ChatGPT is a proof of concept that shows us the possibilities that can be done. That's it. It shows us that yes, you can give it data, it can work with data, it can interpret data, and it can give you analysis. That's it. Having that said, I think the most interesting things about this and how it can help us in our quest to get better at the FinOps analysis, and how it can allow us to get insights, to get analysis, to get productivity that we would otherwise not have, is quite different than what most people would imagine the use of this sort of AI would be. And there is an analogy I would like to make regarding this. That is, in this situation, we're not building a car. We're not building a better engine. We're not doing any of that. We are building a robot to sit in the driver's seat. That's the analogy. Why do I say that? Because when you say we have trillions of rows of data, that's true. That's because we already have the database. We already have the technology. We already have the infrastructure. We already have most of what we need. We already have most of the know-how. What we don't have is an infinite amount of people constantly going through every possible permutation to find results, and having the knowledge in the context in their heads to be aware of every possible variation, looking for those possibilities in their mind. So where does this come in? We're not creating machine learning models that will be specific to each task. We're not creating advanced AIs that are going to get numbers as input and output numbers. We're creating essentially someone to work, someone that's going to sit on the driver's seat and is going to be able to work. And that someone or something we're going to be able to replicate. And that someone and that something is not ever going to receive our data as an input. It's only going to receive whatever a human would receive as well. It's going to know as much as we would know in the sense of how much data we ingest. We as a human, we would never ingest a trillion rows of data. We would look at the database schema. We would look at the documentation. We would do some certain aggregations. We would search for data in certain specific ways. There are things we do because we know, because we have science, we have methodologies to go by. And the model was based on all the human knowledge so far. So he knows how to go about it. So that's the magic behind it. That's how people that are building this sort of stuff that is very cutting edge are going about this. It is not a one shot that we call it. It's not a one shot, one question, one answer. It is someone that's going to do a work for you. You're going to submit a task. Answer me this. Find me that. And he's going to do the question. He's going to do the work. How long it takes, how much iterations take. He's going to do it. It's just going to go. With the added bonus, it's not going to get tired. It doesn't need to stop. It's just going to go. And then that said, it's just one way more for us to get data, to get insights, to get analysis, because as everybody knows, there's never a lack of work for us to do. There's never a lack of ideas. So this is just one more tool for us to solve problems, right? So the magic here is we have the knowledge, we have the brain. The LLM is the brain. We have to find ways to give access to execute actions. And those are the actions. And that ties very well into the FinOps team because it's a complex thing that requires attention to details, so many details, and requires you to have so much previous knowledge. And that's something that we can leverage a lot with, especially right now, with so many current new models that allows us to give it so much contextual information each time we interact. So this is something that it's so new that by the time this goes live, things I'm saying now, perhaps we have things that are newer than what I'm saying now, which is wonderful because it's going so fast. And when we think about this, we essentially now have a brain that we can just give it tools to execute actions for us, and we can drive those. And the thing that gonna differentiate everything that I said here is not like a secret for FinOps. The secret sauce, the thing that differentiates is how you tune it to make it to say, for a thing to know, to understand your problem, and to give you the answer you want. That tuning process, that is the secret sauce. That is the part that is not easy. That is the part that is not just one person that is going to do it. There is the thing that is going to take hours of development for everyone that is involved.
I see. And, this is really something that I think is very important for, I think, the community to understand. And that, I think, robot analogy is really accurate. And I can think of specific examples. These LLM models by themselves have very limited ability to maintain state of data. Very limited. If you go to ChatGPT and try to upload, and it's very I guess a point of perspective or relative what you mean by a lot of data, but we know what we think of in FinOps as a great deal of data. It can quickly lose track. And so I think that the more that I learn about how we will solve this problem, the more that it becomes clear that rather than teaching the agent what is or feeding all of the data to the agent, your point about teaching it what does the schema mean, and then giving it the ability to fish, right? Teach a man to fish, he'll feed himself for the lifetime sort of analogy. And so teaching it how to query the data and how to interpret what a query result set might be structured like, and how to write code to manipulate data from one form to another. And what did it mean when I asked you to do these things? And so that to me is the one of the most interesting points of innovation. It's not that this model is ever gonna be the repository, the font of all knowledge, that it's going to have a brain. Well, maybe someday it will have a brain that is large, and of course we will continue to innovate and extend the limitations of history and token size and all of the things that go along with these models. But the more intelligent approach, I think, is the one that you have proposed. This is my assistant, and I have taught it how to access a single, very contextual data source. What becomes, I think, incredibly powerful is when you teach it how to access multiple, very rich, very targeted sources of data, and teach it correlations between those data sets, right? For instance, the ID of this instance in my cost and usage report, which has a lot of data about what it did, is the same ID in my CloudWatch data that might tell me a whole different type of story about what happened with a specific resource. How much did it consume? What was it efficient? And then to cross-reference the instance type with all the data that we know about the architecture and specific characteristics of the machine that instance runs on, and you can so on and so forth, sort of envision what the future looks like for those of us who are in the cloud optimization game, which is, if I have an assistant that knows pretty much all that I do, but can probably keep much better track of all of the data sources, probably better than any of us are at keeping track of those very specific things. And I can ask that assistant to go out and do an analysis that might take me days to do, or might take me weeks to build a reproducible process. And it can accomplish those sorts of days and weeks tasks on the order of minutes and hours. Then the future becomes very powerful. My ability to do things that I would have only dreamed of doing becomes really within grasp. I think that's the takeaway that I've gotten out of this exploration that I think that we've been doing.
Yeah, exactly. And if I were to say, I view this very much, we are in an inflection moment in history, as I would say there were others in human history, like when we went into, when humanity became an agricultural civilization. There was a moment that we had a spike in productivity. Then there are several other cases, but Industrial Revolution, there was a spike in productivity. That meant that one human produced more than the others before him. Then it was expected that every other human was going to produce more. Then we had the information age from the 80s onward. And then we had another spike in productivity. And that's how it goes, because there is no growth now if we don't do more with the same number of people, right? So in my opinion, right now, what we are living, we're experiencing right now, is one of those points. it's this. Talking about the future with this, I don't think we're going to live in one of those dystopic futures where everybody's going to lose their jobs because of AI. I think we're going to live in a future where everybody's going to be expected to be a lot more productive. It's going to be expected to know how to use those tools, to leverage those tools, because they are here. The same way when they invented calculators, they expected you to know how to use a calculator so you don't have to do things by hand. And then when we had computers and spreadsheets, they expected you to use them so you didn't have to do those by hand as well. So now we have a new tool that is going to allow us to do things much more productive, much faster. So it's just that. And this is going to keep evolving. And the thing is, this is not an intelligence. The way this technology exists right now, no matter how much it evolves, it's not intelligence and never will be. It's just a static database of knowledge. It's a very advanced database of knowledge, but it's a static database of knowledge. We can do a lot. It's, as we've been discussing, it's going to be revolutionary in a lot of places, in a lot of senses, with lots of things going to happen, but it is still very hardware intensive to run. It is still somewhat complex to implement in a lot of places. People still don't understand completely how it works, and people usually are somewhat afraid of things they don't completely understand. So future is bright with this. I think from my point of view, I don't see any problems coming. I just think keep going, keep innovating, keep studying. I think the main takeaway is this: keep studying, keep looking at, keep growing, keep working. Things are going to be good.
Well, I appreciate your commitment to advancing the cause, and especially your commitment here to helping us to roll out something that I'm pretty excited about. I know that you and I had an opportunity to sync up today, and the future is here now.
Yeah.
I over time have come to think of nOps not as just a cloud management platform, not as a cloud optimization platform, but at our core, we are a data and automation platform. And so we have been able to collect a lot of data, to structure that data in a way that has allowed us to innovate at a extremely rapid, mind-blowing pace, especially over the last year. The number of innovations that we've been able to release to market in retrospect is pretty mind-blowing. And so we've been hard at work at leveraging that foundation to give our users the ability to get in and start investigating and helping us to see what the future looks like. So I'll toss it to you, but when can we expect people to actually take advantage of a generative AI based agent in the nOps application? When will people be able to get early access to this stuff?
I think it's in the very far future of the very end of January.
This month.
Perhaps if things go very, very wrong, perhaps in the very beginning of February.
Well, so
as you said, future is here now.
The future's here now. I'm so excited, and so I'm excited to I think one of the things that we're most excited about here at nOps, marrying together this technology with our data platform and the presentation layers, these really cool database technologies at their core that we use to stitch all of this stuff together, is just to see what people are going to do with it, right? And the possibilities are kind of limitless.
And remember what I said in the beginning, because this applies to what we are releasing, because I stand by what I said. Regarding to what we are building and to what we are releasing, ChatGPT, the product, is a proof of concept.
Shots fired. So,
oh yeah,
you say ChatGPT was a proof of concept, and we are now, on the backs of greatness, but on their backs nonetheless.
No, yeah, that's why
product.
Yeah, that's why I said the product. Yeah. Remember, the product, not the model. By no means the model. I said the product.
Yeah. So, all right. So we've been at this for a few minutes here, and we're gonna definitely bring you on and into some of the interesting conversations that we're gonna be having with guests over the next weeks and months. But I'd like to give you the opportunity to close the conversation out by telling us what you think the future looks like. I mean, what's the moonshot 2 to 5 years from now?
I kind of just did a little deviation back there about this. I got carried away a little bit, but if I were to do a little thought experiment here, thinking about 2 to 5 years from now, the first thing that I can assure you is going to happen is, in a sense, like people say about Moore's law, the doubling of transistors every 18 months, we're going to be seeing this happening with LLMs. We don't have enough data to say anything about a law, anything in the number of parameters, but we're going to be seeing a very, very rapid advancement in those, in the model capabilities. And two things are going to happen. The number of parameters. So we're going to be seeing models coming up like GPT, probably 5, 6, 7, and their competitors. They're going to be just like completely outrageous. But we are also going to be seeing another type of race. There is the miniaturization of models, trying to keep the performance of current models, but making them smaller in ways that you can run them in more modest hardwares. So this is something that is going to happen to the point that I think I can say that in the next 2 to 3 years, you're going to be running models in the level of GPT 3.5 in standard notebooks. It's already possible to run with a few caveats. It's already possible, but this is going to become a lot more standard, and this is going to open a lot of venues. But this is the very technical side. In a less technical side, what I think we're going to see is the market is going to mature in the sense that the hype is going to die down. People are going to stop with all that hyping around the world, thinking that's everything's going to be the AI, this AI. And we are going to start to see the maturity of this technology beginning to appear. We're going to actually see products in the market that is going to begin to deliver things to bring value other than what we're seeing here today, like ChatGPT, that is a product that brings value. And when I say bring value, I'm not saying like the value that it brings to us, me, Marcus, you, James. I say things that are going to happen inside big enterprises, things that are going to be doing that have not been thought possible 5 years ago, like entering and doing dynamic APIs linked inside microservices, things like this, that nobody would ever thought possible. This is going to happen, and this is going to be revolutionary in a lot of ways. So a lot of menial tasks that people have to deal right now, they are going to start to be automated by those types of intelligence. We are going to see that, and people are not going to be laid off massively because of that. They're just going to be able to focus in other things. Perhaps you're going to see this happening, but it's very complicated to justify one thing or the other. But that's, in my opinion, what's going to happen. The market's going to mature. You're going to see people, for instance, job applications start requiring you to know how to handle this sort of technologies, you're going to start seeing this popping up in one way or the other. This is going to become the reality. So my opinion, this is going to go one way or the other, but this is how it's going to shape up. And
I almost hear a modernization journey in your analysis. And I think that's really interesting. You know, I think that the enterprise at this point is saddled with technical debt. I think that system integration it is a huge market. And, you know, we talk about a lot of AI-based automation, but automating simple tasks is one thing. What I hear is that we will be using AI to pay off technical debt and expect ourselves as not just organizations of contributors, but at an organizational level to be leveraging AI to raise the bar. There is no more app modernization. We have AI assistants that ensure we're always modernized. We're always integrated. We're always optimized, and that I think allows us to free ourselves from burden. Security, FinOps, DevSec, FinOps. The growing set of responsibilities that we have to think about: data, data compliance, data mapping, governance frameworks, things like that are one of the biggest overheads that the teams, technical teams have to face today. And using these technologies to get ahead of those games allows us to use much more of our resources to focus on the thing that we're all ultimately here to do, which is to innovate.
Yeah.
It's hard at this point in the development of our species to think of innovation happening at an even more increased pace. I think are having a hard time as individuals, even mentally, keeping up with the rate of change that we see today. So it'll be interesting to see the next explosion, because I think we're at the door of it. I think it's here.
Yes, that for sure. A lot is going to change. It's going to be fast. And the best thing people can do is just be open to it, study, and understand. Because understanding how things work is the best way to not have problems, to not be surprised. Just understanding, just studying, just be open to things. You cannot like it. You are allowed to not like it. You are allowed to not use it. But just give it a shot. Just understand how it works. It's the best way to go forward.
Well, Marcos, I couldn't be more pleased to be teamed with you and our data science team. Really, truly one of the highest caliber set of professionals, and specifically with data that I have had the opportunity to work with in my career. I'm excited to start getting some more of the team onto the podcast and talking about the exploration that they are doing every day to innovate across the topics of FinOps and cloud optimization. But alas, I think we're out of time today. I encourage everybody to check us out, www.nops.io. But if you're specifically interested in jumping in on our generative AI early access, we're easy to reach here. I'm James at nops.io. This is Marcos, Marcos at nOps.io. Feel free to shoot either one of us an email. And if you've got an exciting use case, we'd love to talk to you about it, but we'd love even more just to get it set up in your environment and see what you can do. So let us tell everybody thank you for joining us today. If you're still with us after these 45 to 50 minutes that we've been chatting, you're probably just as nerdy and passionate about this stuff as we are. And Marcos, thanks again for joining me today. I hope that we have many future conversations.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'll be here.
All right. We'll catch you next time on the next nCast.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to nCast. We hope you enjoyed the episode. As you can tell, we love to geek out on all things cloud optimization. If you have any questions or feedback, we'd love to hear from you. You can find us on LinkedIn, Twitter, or Instagram, or just shoot us an email at ncast@nops.io. If you'd like to learn more about the continuing innovation over at nOps or about our free FinOps platform where you never pay anything unless you save money, check us out over at www.nops.io.